Hello and welcome back to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show where we meet up and coming indie authors and talk to them about the recently released books. Welcome back to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show. Again, this is Ray Walters. In an age where technology is woven into nearly every aspect of our lives, the ethical challenges of the digital world have never been more pressing. From the way we engage on social media to the responsibilities of big tech, the digital landscape demands thoughtful reflection and intentional choices. Our guest today is someone who has dedicated her career to exploring these complex intersections. With a background in political science and philosophy and a master's degree in information system from DePaul University, she brings a unique perspective to the conversation, one that blends technology, ethics, and communication with a deep appreciation for the philosophical roots of human interaction. A seasoned technologist, writer, speaker, and podcaster, she has emerged as a leading voice in digital ethics, helping us navigate the fine line between innovation and responsibility in the digital era. She currently resides just outside of Chicago, Illinois, where she shares her life with her husband, daughter, and two dogs. Her latest book, Good Digital Citizen: Everyday Ethics for an Unintentional Digital Existence, challenges us to think critically about how we engage with the online world and how we can become more responsible digital citizens. Viewers and listeners of the Author Roundup, please join me in welcoming Kori Kastell. Hi, Kori. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ray. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm so excited also. It's been a long time coming.
It has. We made it.
We finally made it. And Kori, this is going to be a special interview. And the reason why I say it's special, not only because, of course, we're going to talk about your book, but for the first time in the history of the Author Roundup, we will be giving away 5 ebook copies of your book. Am I correct about that, or am I being overly indulgent?
You are right on the money.
Right. So for our viewers and listeners, to if you're interested to get a copy of Kori's book, stick around so you'll find out how to get one. All right. So we're not going to go ahead and say something like it's going to be towards the middle, towards the end, but just stick around and have fun with us as we go through this conversation. But Kori, before we go ahead and continue with this conversation, we have this opportunity to also play a video trailer of your book. So listeners, obviously, if you want to go ahead and see this lovely video of Kori's book, just make sure you log on to YouTube and go online to the Book Connection Show. You'll find a lot of content there, specifically her interview, and you'll be able to see the video that we're going to play. So let's go ahead and play the video.
When it takes seconds to contact, comment, and connect with an online community, what will you show the world? Will your digital interactions promote peace or peril? History gives us ancient and modern wisdom to guide the way. In Good Digital Citizen: Everyday Ethics for an Intentional Digital Existence, Kori Kastell helps you navigate the complex landscape of our increasingly digital world. Order your copy now on Amazon or Archway Publishing.
All right, Kori, that was a beautiful video.
Thank you. It was a fun project. I'm very thankful to my friend who helped me put it together.
All right. So now that we've seen the video, Kori, I just want to go ahead and jump right in on the first question that we have. So you have the Good Digital Citizen. What inspired you to write this book?
I think that I was personally experiencing some of the very common experiences in the digital era, which are so wide ranging, but it's
Right.
the joy of connectivity. It's the fun of having FaceTime with people around the world. It's knowing that you can get information instantly. We have so much power to learn and grow and drive our own success and our own initiatives. So there was all that sort of great energy coming from those types of advances in the innovation that we're experiencing in the digital age. I'm also a passionate innovator. I like to do new things. I like to learn new things. So I really welcome the growth and the progress and the excitement around what's going to come next in technology and innovation. However, there's another side to it, and the underside, if you will, is sort of the vitriol that we find in online spaces and the negativity, as well as the way information just spreads. And we don't often really know or care to find out if something is really true or false before it's spread. And so it felt like a little bit like a train going off the tracks. Like we just don't really always understand what we're seeing all day, every day. And with as much time as we spend on our devices, I mean, sometimes I think the global average might be somewhere between 6 or more hours a day on our phones and other types of internet connected devices. We're just almost becoming passive receptacles of terabytes of information that are just passing around. And so it can be overwhelming. It can be frustrating. It can cause a lot of emotive reaction. And so, what I wanted to do with this work was sort of call that out and just say, hey, everybody, we're all here together. We're all probably feeling this to some degree. Um, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The technology is there to make our lives easier, to improve our situations, drive connections that we might not have had, allow us to do things asynchronously as well as synchronously across the world. And there's all these wonderful opportunities. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, or if
Yeah.
you're feeling frustration, or if you're just feeling like there is a abandonment of sort of common sense ethics and morals and the way we're interacting and engaging, then this book is for you. Like, dig in and let's have a conversation about it.
Right. Let's explore the values and the core message of your book. So my question is, you define a good digital citizen as someone who seeks truth,
Yes.
empathy, and kindness in the digital world. And you've said earlier, we've somewhat become sort of like a passive receptacle, right,
Mm.
of what we consume online. So why did you choose these qualities in your book?
I think that they aimed to restore something that I think is either depleted or lost, and it sort of gives us a chance to reflect and be intentional. And so with empathy, right, I think in the sense that people are also having information overload, right? So let's be cautious about what we're sharing, what we're posting. Let's be mindful that people have 360 lives, right? Multidimensional, multimodal existence, but a single existence nonetheless. So there's a lot for us to take in. So empathize with people and think about what you're posting, what you're sharing, what you are inviting people to know about you, and just be aware too that the annals of the internet are not deleted, and so there is a sense of permanence in all of this vortex of misinformation, disinformation, just things flowing around. But there's still a sense of permanence that what you say and do hangs around on the internet forever. So it gives you a chance to reflect on your own engagement, your own behavioral choices, your own goals, to, make the choices with more intentionality. And hopefully from that, not only have a more peaceful experience within yourself, but that you are in turn also spreading peace, kindness, empathy.
What I'm taking away from what you've said is that there's wisdom involved when we move around online, when we're sharing content, when we're commenting on content. when we're watching videos. So my next question for you, Kori, is that I want to go ahead and link past wisdom to present issues. So how do you think historical philosophies, I know you have a background in philosophy, how do you think historical philosophies like Aristotle's highest good apply to our digital age, like right now?
Yeah, so that's what made this book so fun for me to write. And honestly, I like you've introduced in the beginning, it's the intersect of two things I really love. I love innovation and I love philosophy. And what I started to notice in my, again, from my own personal experience, as well as just from what I was, observing and starting to question a little bit, was that, you know, we kind of have been here before ethically, but just in a different era with different components and different influences. And if you go back to the ancient thinkers, right? You mentioned Aristotle specifically, but I also make reference to Plato and Enlightenment thinkers way up to the modern age. I mean, the 1960s and 70s brought about the techno ethics age. And there's been a lot of thought around how do we behave? How do we connect? How do we have meaningful relationships? How do we make choices about right and wrong in the digital space? But really, the truths are still there. And actually, one of the ways I describe the book is that it's at once timely and timeless in the sense that the ancient philosophies still apply. So, in the sense of, for example, the highest good, Aristotle tells us to live a life of virtue, and that is how we achieve the highest good. He could never have predicted what kind of world we would live in, but virtuous behavior is um, not only, admirable and
Right.
benevolent to society, but it's more important than ever because of the exponentiality of the digital age, right? When we say something, when we share something, when we comment, we have a huge audience and it gets replicated and propagated and reposted and all the things, right? And so we actually have greater responsibility towards a life of virtue than probably even previously understood. And I think that's one of the really neat parts of the book, and a really important philosophical aspect of it. It's everyday ethics, knowing that, shouting something aggressive or expletive towards someone in the public square is not a good choice. And yet somehow online in the comments, they fly around pretty loosely. So
Yes.
the idea is the physical space and digital space are two modes of our existence, but we have one sort of understanding of right and wrong, and we just need to start applying those principles back to the digital space.
Right. I totally agree. Um, the reason why I want to go ahead and ask this question to you is because our audience, some of them might actually want to hear actionable advice, right? So your book emphasizes the risks of hyper virtualization. Okay, so what are some practical steps readers can take to set digital boundaries? And I think this is a very good follow-up question because of what you just said about, how easy it is for us to shout expletives. We may have second thoughts when we are going to do that in person.
That's right.
But when we're online, it's like it doubles. Like it's so easy. In a snap of a finger, you can basically just click on the keyboard and there you have it.
There
So
you have it.
yeah,
And then it's seen by hundreds, thousands, millions, depending on the channel and the following and everything else. So again, who are you in the digital age and how do you want to be known and remembered? It's not going away. So one of the things I really wanted to draw out of this work was to not, just be sort of philosophically exploring. I wanted tactical advice and I wanted to be able to say this is a practical approach to what we're thinking and talking about. And so a couple of different things we can talk about, right? Maybe pretty well known, but really think about it. Think about digital detox. Think about making some concerted efforts to disconnect from all the noise. I think in the book, it's the information vortex. It's like kind of a whirlwind kind of swirling around us all the time. Detox, putting a DND on your device. These are very practical steps you can take. Even going grayscale on your tablet or your smartphone can make you less attracted to sort of scrolling and staring, which we know becomes really, on one hand, intoxicating, but on the other hand, quite damaging to our mental well-being, our spiritual well-being. So we know that the information is there. So taking the time away from it could be a good thing. It's going to be waiting for you when you get back, I assure you. So there's definitely some tactical steps to managing information overload and just having the stepping out of the passive receptacle state and into more of like an active state. So definitely there. I also promote digital random acts of kindness, right? I mean, this is in a sort of different angle of the work, but it's very practical. You know, you might follow someone that you don't really agree with. If you're sort of being urged to come out against it, right? Maybe you want to rethink that approach, right? I mean, it's not to say that you cannot have differing views, different opinions. Honesty is most important, but have you ever considered offering a digital random act of kindness? Maybe offering a thumbs up to somebody that you normally don't really engage with. So there's different things like that. It could be as simple as just withholding a negative comment and thinking, I don't need to proliferate that kind of negativity today. And so those are all tactical things that we can do.
Right. He who holds his tongue is actually perceived as wise, and that's biblical. And it's not all the time that our opinion matters, right? There's also wisdom in knowing when to say what we think and be able to convey it in such a manner that it's respectful, albeit you're able to also present your side, correct?
100%. It's not in any way indicating that you have to give up your values and change your opinions or your views, but just again, choosing to engage in a more thoughtful way, even if thoughtful just means reflecting and holding back or, scrolling past. One of the things that I talk about in the book as well is the concept of stoic scrolling, and it's sort of antidotal to doom scrolling, right? Instead of getting in that receptacle mode and all this stuff is passing through you and we're going through our feeds and it's full of horror story after horror story, bad news, etc., things that you just might not be pleased to see or hear. There's turmoil around the world and we're just going to be flooded with it because the digital age gives us so much immediate access to information, right? But there's a way to sort of, again, intentionality is the key here. As you're scrolling, take an active role in deciding what you're going to respond to, right? And respond could be, obviously liking or not liking or commenting or not, but it's also just letting some things pass by. It does not mean you're oblivious. It does not mean you are uncaring or disconnected. It just means that it's so unhealthy for us to reactively emote to everything we see. So let's invest in the things that we can get behind, right? So in stoic scrolling, you've got to accept the stoic principles that you cannot control the world around you, that you can only control how you respond to it. And so sometimes, if you're in a flood of sort of bad news posts, etc., let a couple go by, and then maybe there's one that really resonates with you. Get behind it, read about it, learn about it. Perhaps join an organization or a group that will counter it or help support it, right? So there's an opportunity there for, again, to intentionally use your energy for a response, not just an emotive reaction, which we know can be really detrimental.
Right. These are societal concerns, and We're also looking into individual empowerment and in what an individual can do when they process information. You're right. The world has been made small because of the internet, and what took weeks for us to know before, like what's happening on the other side of the globe, usually takes a couple of weeks for us to know of. But right now, it's like almost instantaneous.
That's right.
So you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about digital colonialism and surveillance capitalism, because you discussed this. You want to go ahead and dive deeper into this? How can individuals resist these larger systemic issues that we have?
Right. So again, getting behind an organization or a cause you really believe in is probably your number one way to participate and help tackle some of the digital injustices that occur. Right. And we're all pretty well familiar with the big tech companies and the way that we are in a sense subordinate because we want the product, right? We want to have access to constant streaming on Netflix. We want to be able to shop 24/7 on Amazon. And again, these are the wonderful wins and perks of the digital age, right? That we have so much ability, so much empowerment, so much choice, right? And so that's sort of the part where it gets like, okay, but when you actually download an app or you visit a certain site or whatever, a lot of times we are prompted to explore the terms of use. But I would venture that most of the time we are not. And we are
Guilty.
right here, totally like not preaching, just exactly. It's so real. And think about how impulsively and how instantaneously we give away access to our data and information in exchange, of course, for something that we want, right? Like some good or some product or some level of access, information. But still, in a sense, it's almost like big tech really understands that, right? And it becomes exploitative. It's like, hey, you want this? Sure, just make sure we have access to all your data. We're not really reading that. We're not really lawyers. We're not going through all that. We're kind of scrolling right past it and just tapping accept. And I just, again, want to just bring more intentionality to that, because that doesn't mean I'm going to stop downloading apps or stop signing up for things, even when I know it's true. But again, it's the intentionality. Maybe you do want to stop for a moment and reflect before you just sort of mindlessly tap accept.
Right. And this is not being defensive, but
Mhm.
this happens. Like you have those fine prints, right?
That's
When you're
right.
installing an app. And I'm guilty of this. I don't get to sort of like, I don't go out of my way reading it because number one, it's fine print, and
Mhm.
it's quite lengthy. And sometimes
Right.
it has a lot of legal, what do you call this? Terminologies,
Yes, legalese
jargons.
and jargon. Correct. Right.
Yeah. But let's talk about accountability in digital ethics, Kori. We're inundated with information, right?
Yes.
Um, Aside from that's a very simple advice, but a lot of us, and I myself would agree that we tend to like not really care,
Mhm.
right? So
Right.
apart from that, we're inundated with misinformation. What role does personal responsibility play in combating it? I know we've talked about there's wisdom that is needed when you're moving around online, commenting, reading comments, watching videos.
Right.
Uh, what else that are we missing here that we're not that's not out bluntly right there, right in front of us?
Well, there definitely is personal accountability, and most of the book is dedicated to that. Outside of the segment that really talks about some of the behaviors that big tech has demonstrated, and some of them have made attempts to, I would say, reconcile, resolve, and reposition themselves in terms of this as people, the public become more aware, which is great progress. That's the road to digital justice, I would say, digital colonialism, right? But that's sort of the onus is on them. Really, we carry a lot of the onus, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's actually
Mhm.
empowering. We have the ability to choose. Nearly every second of our digital interaction is a choice. So whether we are choosing to disconnect, whether we are
Mhm.
choosing to show a random act of kindness, whether we are choosing to fight for a cause we believe in, those are all actions we can take right away. Another
Mhm.
one is just very simple. Before you propagate, investigate, right? I mean,
I
one thing
like
you
that.
can, yeah, so one thing you can do that's pretty easy, and I know it's not something we can do all the time, but we can think about before I repost this, before I put my name behind it and share it on my feed or on my, X handle or in my social media accounts, I want to make sure it's truthful. I'm not telling
Mhm.
you what to believe or how to believe. I'm just saying before you share what you want to profess that you purportedly stand behind or condone, um, make sure it's truthful. And so that's one of the very simple steps we can take. There are some sites that help us do this. Snopes.com is one of them. But
Mhm. Mhm.
again, to be realistic, doesn't mean every time we see and post something we've done all our due diligence. Probably not. But if you
Yeah.
think about the impact of the digital age, it's all small stuff, it's all incremental. Every little act we make has ripple effects, really corner to corner of the globe, right? I mean, across the world. So you have a choice. Will you show up, one way or the other? Will you spread digital peace or will you spread digital peril? And so each action, we have the agency, the power, and the choice.
Right. And I like that. What's that again? Before you propagate,
Investigate.
investigate. And I
Yes.
think it's also because some of us are like, it's like a contest. The first one to comment, the first one to say something. It's like the fear of not being able to, there's like the element of time. We fear that it's no longer going to be relevant in the next coming days. So we just need to like share what we think and what we feel and without even investigating. Kori, what I want to go ahead and discuss with you is that I'm quite sure you're aware with this. Before the internet is like, when it showed up, we can only use the internet via our personal computers, right? And then there's a time that came where we're now able to use it on our handheld devices, our mobile devices.
Mhm.
And right now we have, it's no longer the internet. It's like it's a commodity. But now we have AI.
Mhm.
So what challenges do you see with the rise of AI and generative technologies?
Yeah, so it's just an intensification, I think, of the themes that we've been talking about, right? I mean, there's just more power behind that type of technology. It has the ability and capability to do um, almost unimaginable things, right? Things that we don't even know it can do, we discover it can do. And so that also has at the crux of it a battle for good and evil, right? I mean, the sense that we can use it to do the utmost good,
Mhm.
strive for the virtuous, strive to nurture our creative impulses and create art and music and connections, and new things that have never been seen or done before, or we can use it for deepfakes and we can create false videos and we can make trash people's reputations rather quickly, because of, you know engineered audio or fake videos, or things of that nature. And so it's just, in my opinion, again, just an intensification of all the same reflection points of the ethical consideration. What is the highest good? Is this
Mhm.
right or wrong? Do I have consequence? Do I care about consequence? To what degree do I care about, not just myself, but the impacts of my choices on others, how it affects the world around us? Those are all things that we are asking. Philosophers have been asking this over the course of history, right? So again, the book goes through a little bit of a historical travel, starting back with some ancient Greek thinkers as well as some ancient Chinese in terms of what it means to have meaningful and positive relationships, right? And to bring good to yourself into the world. But even up through the Enlightenment, where we look at applying reason to morality, like Kant does, right? Where he says, like, well, look, if you wouldn't want to do something to yourself, it means you wouldn't want to do it to someone else, and therefore it's always wrong. And so he gets this very like deontological or black and white sort of definition of what is good behavior, but it doesn't matter what era you're in. You can still ask yourself, is this right? Like, for example, cyberbullying, right? I mean, I think that's a resounding rejection by our society. Nobody would stand for it, although it certainly does happen in our society. Nobody really stands for it or condones it, and yet it's not been outlawed. So what's missing there about our society that we can't come behind that and say, this needs, more guardrails around it. So there's just so many things to peel back. And we've even had thinkers in the Enlightenment period, like Kierkegaard, who
Mhm.
wrote it in a book called The Present Age. The present age then being, of course, a couple hundred years
Yeah,
ago now,
yeah.
right? Talking about the press, right? And the sourcing of public opinion and how we lose a sense of individualism, how we lose a sense of our own views, how we perhaps opine too quickly. And I'm thinking that was with newspapers. Imagine what I can't even imagine what he would think now about applying
Mm.
some of that to the way information spreads today, right? But
Yeah,
again, the
yeah.
common core question is there. The pursuit of truth and solving that is there. We're just applying it to the modern age. We're just looking at it through a different lens. So it's just, yeah, I mean, there's so many things we can go back to our roots essentially to solve some of these things.
Kori, my next question to you is very interesting. I have just recently read a couple of articles about it, and I would have to admit that I don't have the expertise even, but I want to go ahead and ask you this question because it seems like it's ironic how small the world has become, how connected people are, and but still this has become an epidemic. And what I'm talking about right now is loneliness. And your book touches on loneliness. Um, what solutions do you propose for fostering genuine connections?
So, first of all, yes, we are lonelier than ever, I think. And I think part of that was born out of the COVID pandemic, but is really just another layer to the hyper virtualization, right? The idea that we went from PC to smartphone, as you astutely noted, right? Now, smartphone has the world in our pocket. And even though we have tons of information and access and connections, and I've got, this many followers and I can talk to anybody at any time, your view is actually quite narrowed, right? Because you're just really engaging with the screen. And of course, we know more and more research is coming out too about how this adversely affects children as well, right? And kids in the later generations, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and so
Mhm,
forth, and
mhm.
how they're being raised sort of with the screen time. But aside from that, we have a narrower view, and unfortunately, it also means we may get stuck in an echo chamber or just sort of tracking and tracing certain types of information all the time. So this not only feeds into um, maybe feelings of anger or disgust or frustration, right? Because we're just sort of like hearing the same vitriol over and over again. But we're also not expanding our views and learning and hearing from other people. And, we're not really always open for an exchange. We're sort of what I call like launching from digital ramparts, right? We just sort of throw out a barb or we throw out some kind of a, proverbial bomb with a post, and then we shirk away from it a little bit, or it's like this idea that we're disguised when we're online. And one of the pieces that I highlight in the book as well is a piece by Plato. So going back to again ancient Greek times, the idea that you could put on this mystical ring that would
Mhm.
give you the power of invisibility. And so Plato asked people, right? How would you behave if you were invisible? Do you still adhere to the common good? Do you still strive for the morality and behaviors that we know are positive toward a society? And so we basically have a ring of aegis now. It's sort of this digital veil we sit behind, right? We can create avatars, we can create false accounts, we can even just be ourselves, but we're not really present, right? We're sort of
Mhm.
there, but we might hurl a comment and then run off, right? But you have to remember, you've hurled a comment and it's created a ripple effect. So there, yeah,
Mhm.
it's just the exponentiality is really the kicker here. I mean, it's just thinking about the fact that you think you can run away or duck behind your veil, the digital rampart, but you're having major implications.
At this point in time, Corey, it's clear within this discussion that there's there technology, as discussed in your book, and as we've already explored, this technology in particular, actually has a dual nature, right? So, uh, how do you balance tracing the benefits of technology? It does help. It makes our life easy, makes our life comfortable.
Mhm.
So, how do you balance praising the benefits of technology and while addressing its ethical pitfalls?
So I think striking a balance is what being a good digital citizen is kind of all about, right? It's sort of rising
Mhm.
above the noise, focusing on yourself, right? In the sense that your choices you make and understanding the implications and outputs, effects that they will have. And also just um, remembering that we are all going through this sort of together. So again, the empathy strand is there because if we are feeling overwhelmed ourselves or feeling frustrated or feeling like things are going off the rails, probably everyone else is too. So I think again, it can start with you, and I think that's a powerful thing. I don't mean to say that that is a heavy load to bear. I actually think it's quite rewarding to know that you have the agency to choose what you're going to do in any given
Mhm.
day in your digital existence, right? So perhaps your balance is implementing some detox time, right? Maybe you take an hour every day where you just don't use any device. um you kind of refresh yourself, give the
Yeah.
brain a break. It's not meant to process that level of information, the human brain is not. So there's that aspect of it. Maybe it's engaging in something that's really meaningful, right? In sort of the sense of the deluge, the digital deluge, we lose sight of maybe our values or what we could be doing with our time. We're just sort of mindlessly scrolling. Focus your energies to something you really care about, whatever that might be, and get engaged, get connected in a multimodal way. Meet
Mhm.
people in person, have online connections, and have a full 360 experience with the people in your orbit. I think that's another good way. So I think those are really key. And I think one other thing you could easily do is just ask yourself before you do something online, would I do this in the physical space? I mean,
Right.
I just think that, like you said, we think twice when we're in person. We think twice when we're in public view. You are in public view when you're online. You may think that you are disguised, but you're actually more visible and more accessible than if you were in any local physical space, right? Anyone could just follow you or find you, can find things you've said, posted, videoed about. So think about those things before you act. And I think those things will help perpetuate digital peace.
True. And I I I couldn't agree more. And another thing, when you leave your mark, it stays there. People can screenshot it. You
That's
can
it.
basically may have the option to delete it, but people can screenshot it. And once you publish that online, probability is when it explodes, it's going to be to your detriment
Right.
or not. And so yeah, I agree. have the wisdom. I also believe that if we if we talk about ethics right now, this is very simple, but I'd say do unto others what you want others do unto you. Correct?
Right. I
Right.
agree. The
Right.
golden rule, yeah, it's in Christianity, it's from Confucius. Yes, the society has been saying these things for a long time, right? And I think that is again one of the underpinnings of the work is that we can go back to some pretty common understanding, some common social fabric, some, you know, playground rules we all know are there, to some greater or lesser degree, but we know what's right and wrong. So all we have to do is kind of apply it with a little more vigilance, because to your point earlier, it's easy just to click like or unfriend or unfollow or make a nasty comment, right? It's so easy, it's instantaneous, but it has not only exponential output effect, but a sense of permanence. Like you can delete it, maybe, but it can be screenshot, it can be stored, it gets, yeah, tucked away in the annals of digital history, and it's not going anywhere.
True. Kori, as we close, it was a very interesting conversation. As we close, what do you hope readers will take away? I know we've given so much, but I believe that this is just the tip of the iceberg. They need to get a copy of your book. And speaking of a copy or copies of your book, we're going to talk about that a little later. But what do you hope readers will take away from Good Digital Citizen? And how do you envision it impacting their digital lives as a closing question?
I think honestly, I think people are going to find some sense of peace and stability from reading the work, and that's not because it offers any sort of prescriptive
Right.
you have to do something this way. It's not that, but it's prescribing intentionality, which is of your own volition and agency. So you have this really great sense of power, power to do good, power to do better, as equally as we could share, a horrific video, we could share a positive, uplifting message, right? So all that power and agency is there. And I think that's what's really lovely, because it will give you a sense of peace. And you will also know that you are spreading that peace. You're not adding to the negative noise or the vitriol that day. You're taking things a different direction. And I think that also can be very gratifying and rewarding. And call it what you may, but I do believe that good spreads more good. I think people are motivated by it, and we've all been at some point or another, they're either the recipient of or the giver of the free coffee at the drive-through, right? It's like, oh, someone just felt like being nice. Like it's such a great feeling. And so we can do that in our digital existence as well. And again, I want to understate, I'm not telling people what they should think or believe, but just think about how you are engaging with your online community. It is vast, it is variegated, and it is a permanent engagement. So think about how you're going to show up.
Kori, thank you so much for your time. But you know what? Before we even end this conversation, which I don't really want to go ahead and end, where can our audience, both our viewers and listeners, get a copy of your book? Future plans, if you have any, where can they interact with you if they're interested?
Thanks, Ray. So you can find the book on most online retailers, including Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, and of course through the publisher Archway. So I welcome you to go explore it there. If you want to connect, I have a website, and it's the website where you would go to try and get your free download. It's www.good-digital-citizen.com, and there's a contact area. So when I hear from you, you'll get your free download. And I'm also really looking forward to hearing your thoughts after you read it, because it's really the single most important way for us to keep this conversation going.
Right. And that's so kind of you. It's the first in so many conversations I've had that we have someone like you that's so generous to give away free copies of your book. Remember, please, we have 5 free copies, and the first 5 lucky recipient of those, all you need to do is just access the website that you can find at the bottom of your screen. The first 5 will get a copy. Don't forget to leave a comment, a review. Again, on wherever site they get it.
Or Goodreads,
Goodreads.
wherever you like to share your thoughts about things you're reading. I want to
Well,
know.
Kori, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for saying yes to the invitation, for
Thank you
gracing
for
us with
having
your
me.
presence.
It's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that the listeners also have and will continue to keep it going.
Right. And I also want to give a big shout out to our awesome viewers and listeners for joining us for this interview. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on the Book Connection Show. I'm Ray Walters. Join me next time as we explore the world of self-supported publishing, one indie author at a time.